This is the plan because I wanted to do some video for because I run a like an online music academy, and
Yeah,
also a lot of the people that came to your gig at Stratford Jazz are really kind of keen to know some stuff about you. So I thought if I could do this, then I could kill two birds with one stone. So do
yeah. Cool.
you mind if I fire away the questions then?
Far away, yeah.
You just come back from tour, is that right? Or you've been
Just a few gigs here, just a few gigs here and there, really. Just the life of a pro musician.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, one of the questions was, what is a typical week for a pro musician?
Depends if it's fast or famine, I guess. But it can vary from a lot of travelling to no travelling. For me, it could be some studio work from home. No week's really the same. So could be one gig, could be 6 gigs, or you could be away on tour if you're involved with that. But a typical week for me is, on average, would be a few little studio sessions, a lot of which I can do from home. So that's not too strenuous. And then I don't know, 3 gigs maybe, something like that.
Yeah. And how much do you reckon is jazz and other stuff?
It seems these days to go in little bursts, depending on, especially on the jazz side, how much I've organised, kind of pushed myself for a run of gigs. But it can just depend on what you've got on at that period in time. For instance, the start of the year for me started off very much on a jazz basis, and now it's moved more to pop and some average kind of functions
Yeah.
rather than 2 or 3 jazz gigs a week. It's the odd festival here and there.
And okay, cool. I've got some. There's a trumpet player, and he's very keen to ask you some trumpet-based questions. So I'll fire some of these at you.
All
How often do you practice? For how
right.
long?
I'm not the biggest practicer in the world, but I keep my chops in from work, from a lot of as I said, a lot of studio work from home. But there's times I mean, it's obviously a mental kind of instrument, the trumpet. If you don't play for a few days, you start to think, oh, my chops are going to be out or whatever. So depends on how busy I have been with gigs, and maybe if I want to do a little woodshedding on something. But I have a little routine that's just 5 or 10 minutes long that kind of I can tell myself whether things are in or out, and whether there's something specific that I want to get into my playing or that's bothering me or I want to learn a bit more about. But I'm not an avid, right, I'm going to do an hour today or 8 hours today practice. I
Yeah,
have done in the past where I've had periods that have been you know, especially after my illness when I was coming back to playing, I got back, I really wanted to do an hour to 2 hours a day and go back to basics and get
sure.
things
Yeah.
right.
And So is it like do you do tone work and scales, or is it just one specific?
It's mainly, the main thing would be a few scales, lip flexibilities, lip slurs, that kind of thing. That's
Yeah,
enough for me to tell myself. I've been doing it long enough to tell me where the chops are in or not really. And yeah, if I was going into something, it would be more the tone, the long notes, or um, something absolutely specific like an exercise. I'm not really a patterns man, so occasionally I dip in there, but I'm not opening a book of jazz patterns and thinking, right, I want to get this into my playing in a certain way. So as I went, I like to make up my own exercises and find my own way with things, really.
yeah. And he's asked about mouthpieces. Do you use the same mouthpiece for every time you play?
Yeah, I do. I've been through this one, as many players have. When I was working at the old, what they called MIR, big music shop in Halesowen, when it was
Oh, yeah,
there,
I know the one.
I
Yeah,
got yeah, I got the chance to try every kind of trumpet, every mouthpiece that came through the place. So at that stage, I was looking at different things. I've always played on big mouthpieces. Little ones shut up on me, and it's always been tone. Number one's tone. I'd rather work with something and get the tone out of the end of the instrument that I want. But I settled on a combination that was kind of two mouthpieces, but the rim of was one mouthpiece and the cup of another combination that I thought would work well. Had that made up, and that's it. Nothing else.
So if you do, I presume, do you teach people?
Occasionally, I'm not someone who's working as a teacher. I do some private lessons occasionally when people ask me to. Actually did more teaching when I was probably in my late teens. I had a lot of pupils then when I was starting out, but now it's just the odd people that come to me and ask me for lessons. I'll take them on if I'm not too busy or whatever. Yeah, sure.
And do you kind of go for the approach that you kind of advise them what to get in terms of setup, or do you say just work with what you've got and just practice until you can get what you want on it?
If they're on something terrible, then I'll let them know. But there's a certain kind of mouthpiece that I'd advise to start off on, or as they progress. And as long as the horn's working and it is okay, then depending on what level they're at, really, is certain stages where it might be advisable to move to a slightly better horn or a different mouthpiece. But something like I don't know, a 7C, then moving to a 3C to a 1.5C is kind of standard practice. And
right.
I guess my philosophy is once you can get a sound that you're happy with yourself, you've got a certain amount of technique, then you can start to look at exploring the world yourself, really, because that's where you've got to go ultimately.
Cool. I've got a question from someone else now. I'm not going to give too many questions, throw too many at you, but she wants to know how many standards do you know off by heart, and also how do you choose the tunes for your gigs?
Well, standards-wise, off by heart, I'm not one of these jazz musicians that knows the real book inside out. I grew up around a lot of these kind of tunes, so I know the melodies, but I don't know all the changes, etc., in my head, although I could probably play by ear and get around them.
Yeah.
So I do like to have a chart there now and then. So a handful of standards that I would be 100% confident, right, let's play this, I know it. But I know a lot of tunes, and it's important that you know the melody. I think the melody gets lost a lot of times, and you've got to get that over. That's the first port of call, I think.
I think that's why a lot of people like your playing, is that you think melodically and you play the melody, which is, it comes across, which is, a lot of people like that, I think.
Yeah, well, I think you've got to come from somewhere and give people a hook of where you're coming from, but it's the same as a singer, really. That's where that's the basis of the tune. So depending on what kind of tune you play, if you're playing let's say a standard, then it's all about the melody, and then what you do with it in between is kind of the real jazz part of it. And but you know, I'm aware of, and I play alongside some of the great jazz players in the country that just have a library of tunes upstairs, and sometimes I feel a bit inadequate because I need to open my real book or whatever and have a look at it. But I don't think there's anything wrong with that in many ways, depending on what's coming out the end of the horn.
Yeah, I think that's quite a common thing for jazz musicians, isn't it, to feel inadequate?
Yeah, I guess so.
It's a mental struggle that you constantly battle.
It's all a mental game, I think. I mean, once you've reached a certain level on your horn, then, or even to a lesser degree, then a lot of it's the mental side of it, I think, that can raise your game to the next level or not.
And what do you think? She's asked if you can name like the main. She says 3 as an example, but the main things that make a good musician.
I depending on what your job really is, I guess, as whether you're a session guy, an orchestral guy, but reliability, uniqueness, and individuality, I guess. Well, that's the same as uniqueness, I suppose. But
No,
you've got to have something that's different. Some jobs they want the same, basically the next man to come in and do exactly the same as the man's done on the chair before. But so in the jazz, if you're talking about the jazz world, I think then you've got to ultimately become yourself, and discover your own language, and that's when you'll start to be recognised as exactly that. There's some phenomenal technicians out there, but do they really touch the people? I don't know. Some of them do, some of them don't. I've always, my number one philosophy has always been sound. One note, two notes, if they're the right notes with the right emotion, can touch people as much as a blistering 200 notes.
Yeah, no, me too. I totally agree with that.
Cool.
Yeah. Just a couple more then, just to finish. Your ambitions for the future, and you can also, as a thank you, you can plug anything you like.
Cool. My ambitions, number one, is I'd recommend this to anybody: stay healthy, because you can't do much without your health. And I experienced a period of that in my life, and it was very dark times. So that's number one, and just to keep playing, to keep doing it, to keep creative, to surround myself with good people, hopefully travel some more, just be healthy and keep making good music. With regards to plugging things, then look out. I've got a new quartet recording that I'm going to release. A live gig we did that's come out very nice, and obviously there's things like my green project that I did with Chris Dodd that's out there now. Few gigs coming up in the summer, so look out for them. I'll post stuff on Facebook and on the website, that kind of stuff as normal, really.
Brilliant. I look forward to that. And anytime you want a gig next year at Stratford,
Mate, I'm ready. You just got to email me and give me a date, and I'll be there. I'm ready when you are.
Awesome. Last one then. What was the worst gig you've ever played? And she put, was it raining inside at the time? I don't know if you remember when the air conditioning just opened up on you.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure about the worst one, but that certainly wasn't the worst one. It was a very enjoyable gig. So I don't know the worst gig I ever played. I don't know what stands out, and I've put it to the back of my mind, so that's a good. So I can't really answer that and give you a specific, but I'm sure there's been some.
You'll think of the
I've forgotten them, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, that is a good thing. That's awesome. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it, and
my pleasure.
Thanks for bearing with me on all this technology. But it's great. They'll love it, and to see you and kind of listen to you talking about stuff in that way, it's going to really help them. So that's cool. Yeah. Thank you.
My pleasure, mate. I'll catch you soon. Yeah.
All right. Take care.
All right. Take care.